Beneath the grandeur of Peter the Great's Constantine Palace, an enduring symbol of Russia's imperial past, Vladimir Putin greeted his guests. The leaders of the G20 gathering for an economic summit almost totally eclipsed by the Syrian crisis. The Russian leader and the American president face to face, but poles apart. There will be no formal bilateral talks on Syria between these two leaders. "We've nothing to talk about," tweeted a senior Russian parliamentarian. But on the sidelines of this 36-hour summit, there will be dialogue between the world leaders, with President Obama seeking support for a strike against Syria, with others like the French President, François Hollande, planning to present his country's evidence of chemical attacks against the rebels. This is, of course, an economic summit, so Syria is not even on the agenda here at St Petersburg. But, of course, it will be the subject that will dominate this gathering. The relations between President Obama and President Putin are said to be awkward and uncomfortable. In fact, the seating plan at the conference has been tweaked to allow a little more space between the two leaders. But it's believed, despite all this, they will meet on the sidelines at some stage during this two-day summit. President Putin scheduled his first bilateral meeting with the Chinese president. China and Russia, both members of the UN Security Council, have been unrelenting in the backing of President Assad's government. China's support here not surprising.
Unilateral military actions go against international law and the norms of international relations, and will further complicate the Syrian issue and cause more turbulence in the Middle East. Under the present circumstances, all sides should remain calm and exercise restraint. Positive efforts should be made to find a political solution to the Syrian issue.
The Russian leader's opening address at the summit focused on challenges to the world economy.
We should put together a series of coordinated steps to reduce budget deficits and levels of state debt in developed countries, to liquidate considerable gaps in world financial regulations, and to address the shortage of resources at the IMF. On the whole, the G20 has proved itself capable of finding solutions to these issues.
But the crisis is expected to be raised at a working dinner later on Thursday. It looks like an impossible task facing delegates at this summit here in St Petersburg. Leaders have just a day and a half to try and find a consensus and a way forward that's proved so elusive in more than 2 years of fighting in Syria. Peter Sharp, Al Jazeera in St Petersburg.